The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
If Donald Trump pursues this power grab, California stands ready to respond.
Ripple effects of Texas's congressional map change efforts begin. Why it's not the same argument between parties when different states play politics with their districts. Plus, Hurricane Erin putting more than 10 million people under alert. While the worst remains on the coast, more trouble brews in the Atlantic. What forecasters are watching as tropical storm season picks up. And fight over the Fed. President Trump wants another governor of the board to resign. Who he's targeting and why. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dee Gatton, and we begin with a live look over Myrtle Beach right now as this riptide is coming in from Hurricane Erin off the East Coast. While people living inland will not feel much of this storm, those on the coast could certainly experience those life-threatening conditions. More than 10 million people under rip current alerts, with some beaches from Florida to Maine closing out of an abundance of caution. Let's get straight to the National News Desk. Mary Grace Armistead for more out of North Carolina.
I'm out here on Atlantic Beach near Oceana Pier, where you can see behind me that these waves are starting to pick up. The waves from Hurricane Erin are beginning to batter the shoreline here. Waves along the Crystal Coast are starting to pick up due to swells from Hurricane Erin. The wind also picking up, blowing the red flags along the Crystal Coast, advising beachgoers of rip currents. Atlantic Beach Fire and Ocean Rescue Chief Mike Simpson says being prepared is key, especially for low-lying areas as the water is already reaching the dunes.
The tide was up to the dune line on our main beach strand and throughout our beach strand area. And on our main circle beach access, we had some tidal surge that come up almost to the seawall at the boardwalk. We expect that to get worse through the day as we go through the next high tide cycle and into tomorrow.
Lifeguards are out on the beach telling people to stay out of the water. These waves are very powerful and will get bigger. Officials say we are expecting to see waves between 7 and 10 feet here along the Crystal Coast into this evening. I've been in contact with officials all along the Crystal Coast who say that they expect water levels to be high for the next 24 hours. They are monitoring conditions throughout the evening as the storm passes just offshore. But in Atlantic Beach, Mary Grace Armistead.
And as Hurricane Erin moves off the East Coast, there are two more potential storms approaching in the Atlantic. Disturbance 1 is headed towards the Caribbean islands with a 60% chance of developing into a named storm in the next 7 days. Then off the African West Coast, that's Disturbance 2. We're watching it right now, a 40% chance of strengthening in the next week. But of course, we will continue to keep an eye on its development. NATO defense chiefs, including U.S. officials, held a video conference today over security concerns and guarantees for Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine war as that continues. The alliance says they want assurances from Russia that Ukraine won't be invaded again after this fighting stops. Russia Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says the meeting is a waste of time.
I'm confident that in the West, and above all in the US, they understand perfectly well that seriously discussing security issues without the Russian Federation is a utopia and a path to nowhere.
Also contradicting the White House, saying there are no immediate plans for direct bilateral talks between presidents, but says Russia has asked Ukraine for a meeting with high-level officials to restart previous unsuccessful peace talks. Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth met with National Guard members at Union Station in Washington, D.C. today to support the federal effort to assist with local police against crime. Earlier this month, President Trump deployed troops into the nation's capital to patrol the streets, resulting in hundreds of arrests.
We don't have to live like this. We do not have to allow our cities to be taken over by violence and disorder and by chaos. You can actually do stuff. You can actually bring law and order to communities. You've just got to have the political willpower to do it.
And most people living in the nation's capital oppose President Trump's federal takeover of local police. Look at the numbers right here. A Washington Post school poll finds 7 in 10 D.C. residents strongly oppose federal troops patrolling the streets. Another 10% somewhat oppose it. 78% say they feel safe in their neighborhoods, slightly higher than a few months ago. All that being said, less than 7% of D.C. residents voted for President Trump. Transcripts from the grand jury that indicted Jeffrey Epstein will remain under wraps. Today, a federal judge in New York who oversaw the sex trafficking case against Epstein denied the Justice Department's request to unseal them. It comes after a judge also declined to unseal transcripts from Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Epstein died in 2019 while awaiting trial. Parents in Texas are demanding change after flooding killed at least 27 people at Camp Mystic on July 4th. Today, parents testified to lawmakers that their children's deaths were preventable.
I told her camp was the safest place she could be, and she would make new friends and learn new things. I lied to her. She not only wasn't safe, she died.
The families support new legislation to strengthen safety standards at camps. They're asking for provisions, including emergency rooftop ladders and flash flooding evacuation plans. The Texas House of Representatives is taking redistricting to a vote today. The controversial bill could tee up Republicans to win as many as 5 more seats in Congress in the 2026 midterms. It is the same topic that pushed House Democrats to flee the state to block a vote for over 2 weeks. Andrew Lemparski joining us now from the Texas State Capitol tonight, where he's been watching the debate of the House floor on the House floor. Andrew, tell us what's the latest from Austin.
Yeah, we could be just minutes away now from a vote on redistricting. It comes after a tense day of debate on the floor. Lawmakers have been in the House chamber for hours now. And I can tell you, this is the liveliest day we've seen in the Texas House since these conversations started back in July. It's the vote Texas House Democrats blocked for weeks.
Can you explain to us what the residents in East Austin have in common with the residents in Port Aransas?
On the House floor Wednesday, lawmakers heard hours of tense debate, and there were a dozen failed amendments as Democrats make their final arguments to keep the map from moving forward.
So there is your racism right there.
House Bill 4 author, Republican State Representative Todd Hunter, was on defense Wednesday, responding to concerns about the map.
You and I disagree.
I disagree that the public had proper input.
Ma'am, you will not let me talk.
Wednesday's expected vote comes after a 2-week quorum break that ended the first special session and is still a point of friction.
Don't come into this body and say we didn't include you. You left us for 18 days.
Hunter denied allegations of racism, of outside influence, and legal violations.
Congressional redistricting has been on the radar since April. This isn't any surprise.
But Democrats have pledged, even if they lose on the floor, they'll take their fight to the courts. This could mark the end of a very long journey here in the Texas House, and the Texas House leadership is anticipating to turn their attention to flood relief and flood legislation after those deadly floods here in Texas in July.
Yeah, we're watching for that, and you bring a good point up, Andrew. Obviously, this is a journey. The final stop is not the Texas House. Give us the timeline, the expectation for this becoming law.
Yeah, this battle is not over yet, so we're about to see a second hearing vote in the House. There still needs to be a third, and after that, it will go over to the other chamber, the Senate here in Texas, before it ever gets to the governor's desk.
We will watch and wait and see. Live from Austin, Texas, Andrew Lemparski, thank you so much. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom's attempt to redraw California's congressional districts to create more Democrat-friendly seats is seeing a big boost in support in the state. The poll conducted by Democratic Polling shows 57% of voters are backing the redistricting measure, which goes before voters in November. 35% are opposed. Another 8% are not sure. The move is being met with opposition by the Republican minority.
And so the idea that we're going to overturn the will of voters and return this power to politicians, I think it's very undemocratic. And indeed, a poll from Politico just 2 days ago showed that voters stand by their decision.
And unlike in Texas, in 2010, California voters gave the power of redistricting maps to a bipartisan citizen commission. The proposed vote overrules that precedent. According to Politico, multiple California Common Cause Advisory Board members tendered their resignations in opposition to the attempt to redraw maps on a partisan basis. Those who stepped down say they didn't feel like they had any input into those changes. A Colorado manhunt is in its second day as authorities look for a suspect who stabbed a park ranger at a state park southwest of Denver in what is now believed to be a targeted attack. The search is now for a 6-foot-tall male. We're told he was last seen wearing blue jeans and a gray shirt. The unnamed ranger is hospitalized in serious condition after an emergency surgery yesterday. A drug ring was busted in Florida this week when local and federal undercover agents arrested the primary suspect after a 6-month campaign. 22-year-old Jartarius Dwayne Coleman was taken into custody along with seizing $20,000 worth of drugs and 9 firearms. Among the drugs confiscated was cocaine, meth, fentanyl, marijuana, and oxycodone pills. At least 2 of the weapons were reported stolen. 10 other arrest warrants have been issued for others involved. Also in Florida, one person is behind bars as a part of a multi-state fraud operation. Authorities arrested 69-year-old Aleda Janelle Caldwell while she was attempting to UPS envelope believed to contain a fraudulent money order linked to the scam, sending that. Victims received unsolicited texts offering promotional deals. Those who responded were mailed counterfeit checks and instructed to deposit the funds into their own account and send a portion to a third party. By the time the banks flagged the checks as fake, victims had already sent real money, suffering major financial losses. Kilmar Abrego Garcia wants a federal judge to dismiss the smuggling charges against him. The Salvadoran National's attorneys accuse the Trump administration of vindictive prosecution, claiming he's being punished for challenging the, quote, violation of his due process rights. Abrego Garcia was sent to El Salvador in March despite a 2019 order shielding him from deportation. The administration says he's an MS-13, which he denies. Coming up, many companies can't absorb the costs of tariffs for much longer. The latest retailer to announce it's raising prices. Then, many Americans are worried about artificial intelligence, the specific things they're most concerned about. And later, why tens of thousands of people in an Ohio city are suddenly unable to access city services. We're back in 90 seconds. President Trump says Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook must resign now. It comes after the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, said Cook should resign or be fired over claims of mortgage fraud. He accused Cook of claiming 2 properties as her primary residence at the time, giving her possibly beneficial loan terms. Listen.
When this came across my desk, I said, people are going to think this, that, or the other thing. Well, it doesn't really matter. If she did this, she did this. We have an obligation to report it. And it wouldn't matter whether, she was a Republican or Democrat. It is what it is.
He's asking the DOJ to criminally investigate her. Neither Cook nor the Fed have commented. As steel and aluminum tariffs expand, Federal Reserve officials are expressing concern about rising inflation and weakness in the labor market. The National News Desk, Atra El-Nashar, has a closer look at that as high tariffs are pushing retailers to make some tough calls.
A dreaded rise in prices fueled by President Trump's trade war is coming to Home Depot.
Obviously, tariff rates are significantly higher today than they were when we spoke in May.
Executives were confident they wouldn't have to raise prices, and if certain items did get more expensive, they just wouldn't carry them. In an earnings call Tuesday, the company says some categories will see price increases, but it won't be, in their words, broad-based. Walmart, Target, Nike, Macy's, and Best Buy executives also say they're raising some prices to help offset the cost of new tariffs.
And now our inflation is down to a perfect number, a beautiful number, hardly any at all.
In July, wholesale prices rose almost 1% in just 1 month and 3.3% over 12 months, far more than expected. It's usually a sign of what's to come for consumer prices. Newly released minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest meeting show a few participants observed that evidence so far suggested that foreign exporters were paying at most a modest part of the increased tariffs, implying that domestic businesses and consumers were predominantly bearing the tariff costs. The president staying the course with his tariffs, focused on the tax revenue they're generating.
We're finding hundreds of billions of dollars of cash is pouring into our country now because of tariffs.
About $131 billion as of August 15th, according to Treasury data. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent estimates it could reach $300 billion by the end of this year, but said this about the president's idea of tariff rebate checks for Americans.
I think that we're going to bring down the deficit to GDP. We'll start paying down debt. And then at a point that can be used as an offset to the American people.
The president rejecting forecasts of tariff-related inflation and continues public pressure on Fed Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. Now, Powell's term ends in May, and we're now learning that Trump's pool of potential replacements expanded to 11. Bessent will start meeting with those candidates closer to Labor Day.
And as we look at those meeting minutes, Atra, from the Fed, we learned more about why 2 Fed governors voted against the rest in favor of a rate cut. Give us the details there.
Yeah, it was the first time since 1993 that 2 Fed governors dissented. In this case, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller. And today we got some color on why. They believe if you weed out the effects of tariffs, inflation is actually running close to their 2% target. And they're getting concerned about some red flags they perceive in the job market, slowed economic growth and consumer spending, and also weakening payroll gains. We all saw the latest jobs report, and the gains that we are seeing are in a pretty narrow set of industries.
And we'll see how it all translates next month. Atra El-Nashar reporting tonight from the Capitol. Thank you. Americans, they're concerned about artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to politics and jobs. A new Reuters Ipsos poll finds over 3/4 of Americans are worried about AI stirring up political chaos with deepfakes and misinformation. About 7 in 10 worry about people losing their jobs to AI. Most people are concerned relationships with AI chatbots will replace in-person ones. Hearing about that increasingly. They also worry about how much electricity AI data centers use. The CEO of Target is stepping down next year amid low sales. The company said Brian Cornell will leave his post in February. Chief Operating Officer Michael Fidelake will replace him. This shakeup comes as Target announced a decline in second quarter earnings. Customers haven't been buying as many of its clothes and home goods. Target also faces some tough competition. A major red flag for the Democratic Party may lie in voter registration data. As national correspondent Matt Gelka explains, the alarm bells could be ringing in a majority of states around the country.
New data reported by the New York Times could be a major warning sign for the Democratic Party. Voter registration data showed a party that is rapidly losing voters in every state that tracks registration by political party. From 2020 to 2024, the data showed a 4.5 million voter swing from Democrat to Republican in the 30 states tracking party affiliations, with Dems losing 2.1 million registered voters and Republicans gaining 2.4 million. Maryland businessman Ed Hale, who just announced a run for governor as a Republican, is a former Democrat who switched parties.
I don't see much that I agree with the way the Democrats are going right now. I just don't.
The 30 states include 4 key battlegrounds: Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, where Democratic voter registration advantages were eroding. In Pennsylvania, for example, the data showed that Democrats had more than 500,000 more registered voters than Republicans in 2020. That number is down to around 53,000 as of this summer.
Democrats for years and years now have faced a branding problem, a messaging problem that has just led to people not only continuing their loyalty, but especially with younger voters, them choosing the other team.
Shedding voter registration advantages over the 4-year period may have proved to be a missed warning sign for the party. Democrats suffered huge losses in 2024 when they lost the White House and the popular vote to Donald Trump. Democrats have been trying to forge a path forward, with DNC Chair Ken Martin acknowledging earlier this week the party has work to do, but said they're starting to find their footing by taking on Trump policies and Republican redistricting efforts.
We cannot be the only party that's playing by the rules anymore. That's why I said this isn't your grandfather's Democratic Party where you bring a pencil to a knife fight. We are bringing a bazooka to a knife fight.
The data showed the Democratic Party was especially struggling with younger voters and Latino voters, groups that had previously reliably been signing up as Democrats. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Coming up, why a DACA recipient who's lived in California for 2 decades has decided to self-deport. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we started in California, where more people are choosing to self-deport.
I voluntarily chose to leave, and I want individuals to know that this is from an empowered state, as some of us may be feeling very disempowered right now.
Patricia Vázquez Topete voluntarily returned to Mexico after calling Singer home for 2 decades.
I didn't want to be considered a criminal or to ever be put in a situation where I would be taken into an encampment and treated as a criminal.
Vázquez was valedictorian, received her bachelor's degree from Fresno Pacific University on a full ride, and became a global banker. The first 2 years of college, she worked picking strawberries in the Salina fields, then finished as a DACA recipient.
I actually left Mexico because I was being sexually abused in my home by a close family member.
Fresno-based attorney Jesus Ibanez says self-deporting is becoming more common with clients.
Very little is working at City Hall, leaving people confused and concerned.
man, everything closed down.
Vernell Brent came to City Hall today, like dozens of other people, to take care of some business with the city, but found many windows closed. The city sent a press release out and posted on its Facebook page saying, the city of Middletown experienced a cybersecurity incident over the weekend that disrupted several city functions.
They've got to take and get their stuff all settled and get it all straightened back out. And that means that a lot of people's information is gone.
I actually resigned from my job to be here. At the end of the day, for me, it was a choice between having to be on call during his games and him having my full attention, and I made that choice for myself.
Her son, Griffin, scoring Monday's winning run.
There's so many emotions, and it's just the best feeling.
A return to the corporate world may be in the future, she says, but for now, her focus is on the present and seeing dreams come true.
My son's never going to be 12 again. He's never going to be in the Little League World Series again. Like, I have never missed a single Little League game of his since he was in T-ball, and I wasn't going to miss this.
Coming up, the animals that help keep travelers safe are being recognized. The candidates competing to become the TSA's cutest dog, and how to vote. You won't want to miss this. That's right after this. All right, a competition to become the TSA's cutest dog is down to 2 Labrador Retrievers. You're looking at them, Alex from Denver International Airport and Steeler from Pittsburgh International. TSA says Alex likes eating green beans, while Steeler prefers jumbo hot dogs from 7-Eleven. Key detail. You can vote on the agency's website. The winner will be revealed on Tuesday, National Dog Day. That is impossible. You cannot choose between such cute dogs. Go and hug your pets. No, I want to right now. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis takes on California over the illegal migrant who allegedly killed 3 over the weekend. That story and all of your top headlines coming up tonight at 10. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. See you then.